I've just had a few very close friends of mine report on some very sad events and their struggles to handle the grief of it. And I have given the same advice, which I happen to have found helpful for me. I don't know that it's the right advice for everybody, but I offer it for that purpose. And I have gotten so many really heartfelt responses that I thought I'd share it with you. So this is my day 66, and this is what I am offering if you have some kind of mourning or grieving that you need to do. Okay, here's what happened. I'll tell you my personal story. As an adult, I love dogs, and I've always wanted my own dog. And finally, as an adult, my first responsible as an adult dog was a mutt, a beautiful mutt that I thought looked like a black lab. Don't ask me why we came up with the name of Zubin, but we did name him after that conductor at the time. And when that dog passed away, it was 9 years later. And I actually was out of town at that moment when that happened. And the only way they could have at that time, because we didn't have cell phones then, was to write me a letter about it and explain the entire process. And it was a very beautifully written letter and a nice card from the vet and all that. I was suffering so badly with that whole thing. I was just grieving and mourning and sad like you wouldn't believe. Well, yes, maybe you would believe. But what I decided to do is I got a really nice bottle of wine from Flora Springs in Napa Valley. And I sat there with that bottle of Chardonnay, and I sat with a blank journal that someone had given to me as a gift, and I didn't really know what I was going to write in it. And I started drinking that wine and writing everything I could remember about that dog. Every single trick that we had worked on. He had a repertoire of about 150 different tricks, including picking up laundry and picking up cats and all kinds of stuff that we did with him. It was just hilarious. And then I closed the book and I put it on my shelf. And I will tell you that I felt so much better. Now, my theory today is that we grieve and mourn because we're afraid of forgetting, and we don't want to forget. And so by doing that, maybe our physical, emotional, mental state is that it's going to impress it in our minds. Well, I will tell you what happened is that I forgot all about that journal. And then at some point, at a later time, I started remembering it, and I went looking for it on my bookshelf, found it, and opened it, and discovered that it was exactly a year. I'm not kidding, exactly a year since I had written it. And then wow. So I read through it again, folded it up, put it back on the shelf. And I will tell you that that process repeated itself. It would not enter my brain, and then all of a sudden it would, and I'd go and find the book and find out that it was a year had passed again. It was another anniversary. And I have since discovered through some articles that I've read that people often have that same experience. It's like a trauma thing that happens, and your brain just sort of gets wired to that and remembers it. People who have abortions or other major life events, they will just have that memory come back to them. So what I have recommended to people when they have this kind of a loss thing is to do the same thing. Get yourself a journal, just to devote some time, whether it takes you several days or a one-time sitting like it did for me, and just write everything that you can remember, all your memories. Just write them down, silly as they are, the funny little stories. You can make a big thing out of it. You can just whatever. And see if that doesn't help you to feel better, because you know that you have written it down. You won't be suffering so much to impress it upon your memory and your heart, because you've already done that in your written word. Now, for my father, when he lost my mother, he had a very tough time with this. And so I told him my story about the dog, and then I suggested that he get himself a copybook, which I knew he had several of, and start writing letters to Mom. He didn't have to write more than a sentence a day, but he could just sit down and do that. And I will tell you that for years he kept up that habit. Even when he was dating somebody new, he still was maintaining that journal of letters. And when he passed away and my brother-in-law happened to pack up those kinds of belongings, he sent me a box of all those copybooks, letter journals that he had written to my mother. And with this tiny, itty bitty, scrawly handwriting, it's amazing the stories that he put in there. So I know that that's how it helped my dad to survive the whole experience. So maybe that'll help you as well. And I usually recommend that to everybody because it seems to have been helpful. And now there's a record that you'll be able to hand down to other people, or you'll be able to use as a reference point for yourself. But again, it's like that video I made a few days ago about planting the stake in the ground now. This is a milestone. This is where you are right now. And this is now a way to memorialize that for yourself. It's the end of one phase of your life and the beginning of another. It's the stopping point in a journey, and now you're turning around to face a new direction. And it's such a wonderful way to memorialize this momentous time of your life.